Great, thank you very much for listening to my talk. So today I'm going to talk about traditional owner partnerships for enhanced reef restoration outcomes by way of an example of the Woppaburra Coral Project. And I've had the great privilege to work on this project and spend time on Woppaburra Sea Country over the last 5 years. Sorry, I'm going to skip back. It seems to have skipped forward without me. I'd like to acknowledge that the work and intellectual property presented in this presentation is that of my co-authors, but also the AIMS Indigenous Partnership team. Got it. I'd firstly like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and sea country that we work on, and also in particular the Woppaburra people, the traditional custodians of the land that this project was based in. So a little bit of background on the project. So it has been a 5-year partnership between AIMS, BHP and the Woppaburra Tumra, and a part of the Reef Resilience Initiative along with Reef Song. So the project has 3 main components. The first is traditional owner and community partnerships, and that involves truth-telling, two-way knowledge sharing, on-country workshops and communication. Secondly, aquaculture and restoration training, and that's been delivered via Certificate 3 in aquaculture, high degree research students, and also micro-credentials. And thirdly, restoration science, and this has predominantly been around the drivers of post-settlement mortality in young corals, but also substrate and propagation testing. So I'm going to back up a little bit and provide a bit of background on the traditional owners of the region that we worked in, the Woppaburra. You've heard a little bit about them from Bob in his plenary this morning. Thanks, Bob. So the Woppaburra were seafaring saltwater people who lived on the Keppel Islands in the southern Great Barrier Reef. And as Bob said, they were enslaved and abused by European settlers. They were used as unpaid labourers or slaved, and in many cases murdered. They were forcibly removed from their land and sea country by 1902. And they were intentionally separated from their kin and relocated throughout New South Wales and Queensland in particular, and that was in an attempt to break their connection with country. So many Woppaburra descendants have not stepped foot on their country. Myself and some of you have spent more time in Woppaburra Sea Country than many of the Woppaburra descendants. But more recently, Bob showed this slide as well, there has been some positive return to country, facilitated by the return of land to the Woppaburra, the formation of the Woppaburra Tumra, also this project which was initiated in 2019, and also a successful native title claim in 2021. And this illustration really shows the steps that the 6 steps of the project, and I'm going to focus on the first, the 3, the on-country meetings and truth-telling, free, informed and prior consent processes, and then also local knowledge and site selection. And then I'm going to skip over the science and go into some knowledge sharing that happened during the project. So the project kicked off in 2019 with an on-country workshop held on Konomi Island with 45 Woppaburra descendants, and for 40% of these attendees it was their first time on country. A large part of the workshop involved truth-telling, and that involved AIMS staff telling Woppaburra descendants the work that had been done already in their sea country without their consent. So some pretty confronting stuff, including the taking of coral cores, many monitoring trips, but also the interbreeding of Woppaburra corals with those from other reef regions. It also involved AIMS outlining the research that was planned quite broadly as part of the Woppaburra Coral Project. And after this, we received free and informed prior consent for the project quite broadly. There was also a process of knowledge and cultural heritage mapping undertaken as part of the project. So given the forced removal of Woppaburra since 1902, there wasn't that current knowledge of reef ecosystems available to us to allow mapping of reefs. But certainly we were able to map culturally significant sites, and thus this information indirectly informed our site selection to enable us to avoid those sites. So one of the three objectives of the project was aquaculture and restoration training, and this was predominantly delivered via the employment of 2 Indigenous trainees at AIMS. So here's a photo of Jamaica and Water that have been working at AIMS over the last 4 years, and during that time they've gained their Certificate 3 in aquaculture methods. They've experienced working at AIMS as aquaculture assistants in the Sea Simulator, but also in other teams within AIMS, so EcoRap and the Indigenous Partnership Team. And they've also, importantly, had opportunities to spend time on country as AIMS employees. So Jamaica in particular is a Woppaburra descendant, and she's joined us in the field on a number of field trips, contributing to our science objectives. And this is a photo in the top here of Jamaica helping out in the field, pulling in a hydrophone that's been recording baseline soundscapes in her sea country. So really important time on country for her. And these are a couple of quotes from Jamaica with regards the importance of the project for her, or the impact of the project. So to me, it's not just work, it's being involved and having family involved in the renewal of coral life, putting into practice our own culture and science together. And secondly, it's showing that if I can do it, it has opened up these pathways for others. And there she's talking about career pathways for other Woppaburra descendants who may not have considered marine science or a trade that might lead to a job in restoration science. Aquaculture and restoration training has also been delivered via micro-credential training. So during the 2022 on-country spawning event that we held, a number of Woppaburra descendants participated in coral spawn capture and coral seeding and gained a micro-credential in this. They've also helped to develop culturally safe procedures for the cryopreservation or biobanking of coral gametes in collaboration with Taronga Zoo. And they've also importantly gained on-country field experience and seen the work that scientists are doing on their sea country, and seeing the skills that maybe they can gain to provide them an employment opportunity in this area in the future. So identifying additional training pathways for them. The project has importantly provided Woppaburra significant opportunities to spend time on country. So the kick-off workshop in 2019 had 45 attendees, on Woppaburra attendees. The 2022 on-country spawning event had 11 Woppaburra attendees that really had a very hands-on experience helping collect coral slicks, watching coral spawning and gathering that, and helping in the processes of coral seeding and cryopreservation. And in 2024, we've just finished off our last workshop for the project with an on-country celebration with 43 Woppaburra attendees, 20 of those who were children. So that was a really fabulous opportunity for us to share the knowledge that we've gained through the project with the Woppaburra traditional custodians. And I'll just reiterate that for many of these people, it is their first time on country. It's certainly their first time seeing their reefs and first time observing coral spawning. I'd also point out that I didn't realise this, for many of them, given that forced dispersal throughout Australia, they haven't met each other. And so for many of them, it's actually an opportunity to meet their cousins, get to know their aunties for the first time, which was really powerful to see. So this time to connect with country was met with mixed emotions. So certainly elation from some at the opportunity to get in the water and see the reef and get to know their country and kin, but also sadness for the opportunities that they've missed over the last 120 years, having not been on country. and also great sadness for seeing that climate change is changing their reefs before they've had an opportunity to learn about them and connect with them. These workshops have also provided, opportunities for deep connection between AIMS and Woppaburra staff. So we've spent weeks on country with Woppaburra, getting to know them personally, but also, getting to know their aspirations for their young people for the future. So our restoration science undertaken as part of this project has been around coral seeding and deployments for increasing our understanding of the drivers of post-settlement mortality. It's also included some studies of natural recruitment and also natural recovery following bleaching events. And some of the positive outcomes for restoration science of these strong relationships that we've built with the Woppaburra people, that trust and respect, has been a very broad, free, informed prior consent for the research activities that we've undertaken. So as part of that initial workshop, we asked for permission to undertake our research in the Woppaburra Sea Country. But as the project has changed along the way, we have reiteratively gone back to the Woppaburra Tumba and sought additional or consent to undertake this changed research objective. And so that's again built kind of ongoing trust and respect within the partnership. And this broad FPIC has provided the opportunity for us to undertake 4 years of coral spawning, research, 6 coral seeding deployments, and 23 experiments, and the publication of 10 scientific publications with more to come. It's led to many advances in coral seeding know-how, and I've got a short list here, and I'd certainly encourage you, if you're interested in this space, to attend Carly Randall's talk on Thursday morning, where she'll talk about the science outcomes of this project more deeply. And I suppose just to wrap up, to say that the final 2 outcomes for the positive outcomes for restoration science for engaging deeply with the traditional custodians of this sea country has been the strong relationships between AIMS and Woppaburra that have been built and build a platform for the support of ongoing support for future projects in the region. And lastly, the identification of employment pathways for the young Woppaburra people, and that's going to be particularly important given the need to upscale our restoration efforts into the future. We'll need a ready workforce willing to work on the sea country. So it's been great to see the Woppaburra descendants, I suppose, see themselves potentially as being employed in this sector in the future. And I'll just thank AIMS and BHP for funding the project, and the Tumra for engaging so closely with us. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for sharing that journey. We've probably got time for one quick question. If there's anyone from the audience or from Slido online. You might just make it off scot-free.
Great.
Also have some side chats. Thank you, Kathy.